I'm just kidding.
Blast off.
Hey everybody, welcome to the 638 podcast. Today we're going to be talking about what it's like to be in Drumline in high school. Now with me today we have my friends Ben, Bailey, and Andrew who are all in Drumline with me. How are you guys doing today?
We're
Pretty
good.
good.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
good. I could public speak for everyone, but we're pretty good.
Thanks for that.
We're in the loop. We're in the simulation. That's how it is.
You see the Metaverse, the Travis Scott concert?
I
Uh,
Oh,
saw a meme about
yeah.
it.
I saw that.
Does that
That
count?
don't spoil anything, but that actually
That's the
relates to what
Metaverse.
Andrew
That's
said
the
and what
Metaverse
Ben
that
said.
Andrew.
Yeah,
Yeah, that Fortnite
and
thing was pretty cool. I know me and Ben saw that the other day. But anyway, so about Drumline. So we're all, I'd say, 4, 5 years removed, 6 years removed from
mhm.
being in high school Drumline. So I feel like that's an appropriate amount of time that we got to really process what happened in those 4 years that we were in Drumline.
that was very loaded.
So, so I just want to start with this. Let's just start from the beginning. I want to throw this question to everybody. We'll start with Bailey and then just go around.
All right.
Why did you decide to join Drumline?
Yeah, talking about loaded once again. I gotta
Yeah.
repeat myself. Yeah, I mean, drumline itself, it definitely carried over from middle school. Having had a lot of interest going into middle school, and then having done 3 years of middle school band. I think what a lot of people, especially us as percussionists, was that we wanted more of a kind of individualized focus in terms of our instrument. Like, when you're a young kid in middle school, you're in concert band, you kind of get sick of that. At least I kind of felt that way, even though retrospect, it was very fun and it was good for becoming a good musician. But I think just kind of wanting to kind of have a really good, um, I guess, focus on actual, drums in a music class, not just being concert band. That's kind of a naive answer, but that's what got me onto it. So I'd say, yeah, that was kind of long-winded and kind of circular, but yeah, I'd say mostly just wanting to really have an individualized time for drumming and percussion.
Right. What about you guys?
Andrew, do you want to go? Want me to go?
Yeah, I can go. Well, I definitely joined high school drumline because I needed an excuse to go to Ale House with other people. No, I'm kidding. But on the real, I would definitely say, well, I mean, it was the continuation of we were already in concert band at Omni, and then it's the next
Right.
best thing you join. But it was a good outlet. I think like especially with high school, it's like you're like, oh, what do I expect? But then it's like, oh, you know what? At least this is something I'm pretty familiar with. I know how it's gonna go. We've had the whole Omni concert, whatever, high school
Right.
marching band day. We all had that vision of where we would be there. It was a place where we felt comfortable. We knew crowning. We knew some of the people that were already in band. We knew Christian. He could cradle us in his big arms.
Feel the fire.
Yeah, no, but it was a good place to feel comfort when you're going into high school. You're not really sure what to expect, but it
Yeah,
was definitely a lot of fun. Wasn't I don't think any of us really went into it with a lot of pressure or nervousness. It was pretty much like we knew what to expect because we had all. It's like the same kids from Omni were straight into River. So
Right.
Yeah.
What I will
Yeah.
say before Ben talks was a special case for me, Bailey, and Andrew in particular, because we all ended up going to the same elementary school. I know we had,
Yes.
you guys remember Mr. Rodan? Or
yeah,
I was
so,
gonna mention that way back. Yeah.
yeah, so I think
Yeah.
it's really interesting that we went to this smaller elementary school that not a lot of people that went to our high school went to, and it turns out that us three and a couple other people from this one music teacher, we would have basically drum circles every week during music class in elementary school, and I remember that had a big impact on me and really got me interested into percussion and drums in the beginning. So I know I just think it's really funny that we all ended up pursuing drums, I guess you could say, throughout middle school and high school.
Yeah, thank Mr. Dan for that one. I was going to mention that too. And the definitely the real beginning is, yeah, in those drum classes back in elementary school for sure.
Yeah. What about
Well,
you, Ben?
Steve and I are backstage music veterans.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out
Oh,
to Mike Vera.
I'm
I
also part
went.
of that
I
on a
went
very small
there. I
scale.
had Mike.
Yes, so did I.
Yeah.
Very briefly, though.
What
What's he
ab-
up to?
We all were cut from the same cloth, so
for sure.
that's how that goes.
Yeah, backstage.
The back room of backstage music.
Thanks, Jackie, for $25 Vic for 5 A's. This is
Yeah.
a steal.
I could get into
As for
backstage for a bit, but I'll let Ben go.
as for me joining, the biggest thing probably was like the continuation.
Yep.
Andrew really did nail that, especially for me because I outclassed Steve as the second chair all of Omni Middle School.
In seventh
The
grade,
one,
right?
Uh,
one semester, yeah, Andrew was there. Andrew, I was ahead of you too, fool. And I just knew
yeah,
I
me
needed
too.
to take my talents elsewhere at the time. It was
Oh.
just a little too good for them. And the high school level band, yeah, it was a continuation of it.
Don't let
Yep.
the scales test get to your head.
I
Uh,
think about it every day when John Petito beat me.
John
I was-
Petito and I once saw a Mission Impossible movie, and he came wearing an earpiece. Like,
He's a great guy.
it was great. It was just, it was hilarious. I went with another kid who was like a family friend, and he showed up talking like he was in like the CIA. It was wonderful, and that was the last time I saw him.
Yep,
You get
he's a cool
notified
guy.
after this is published, like the CIA wants to know your location. You've accidentally spoiled like a covert mission.
all right. Anyways, now bring this back on topic a little bit. So now we all kind of established how we got there. That it seems like for a lot of people that we were just doing it a long time, and especially middle school really fostered the love for drumming, at least for us. And I would say a lot of people, especially in my symphonic band, like ended up doing drumline in high school as well, and like continued with it. So now we're in drumline. Let's talk about something that a lot of people have perhaps some misconceptions about. Let's talk a little bit about band camp and what it's really like. So
Oh man.
so for a lot of people that aren't in marching band or drumline or whatever, and I've just seen band camp from movies or whatever, or they have some pretty
Everything is
pretty whack views of what goes on. So who wants to take like what they think band camp's really like, and what's like true about band camp and what's like not true?
What are some common misconceptions that people have? Because I honestly don't know many, because most of my friends, like you guys, are all in bands, so
Yeah,
I kind of forget some of the misconceptions, to be honest.
I don't know. Wasn't there an
I
American Pie?
think he's referring to American Pie.
Yes, no, definitely, but that's like kind of, I guess, kind of cliche. Not that it's, not worth looking to, but
Well, either
Yeah.
either way, how would you describe band camp to
Thank
someone that
God.
doesn't know?
yeah, in
Sweat.
terms of that, yeah, just a lot of heat,
Sweat.
a lot
Looking
of
at
sweat.
Trevor's flip flops.
Yeah, I mean, I would say,
Ben hit the ground that one day and woke up,
I was
graduated.
gonna say that for it. I was gonna here. I'll do it now. Let's set the scene. It's my first day. It's ninth grade. I have taken my talents to for high school, and the first thing I do is they tell us to stand at set, which is like a set position where we all look pretty much uniform. And after about like 30 seconds on the first day at 9:30 in the morning, I fainted. I fell over. Everything you heard is true.
that was riveting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never
I
felt
think
so
the big thing
broken.
about Bandcamp is I think a misconception is that we don't really work hard, but we're out all day in the heat, and it's really hot.
I would
We-
Well, I
disagree a little
I
bit
would
with that
say,
one.
well, I was gonna say, I think people. There's either two sides of it. There's the American Pie view, which is like, hey, it's we're all having a good time, and the music is like kind of on the side. It's pretty much like some sort of summer camp. But then
Yeah.
there's the other side where it's like the movie Drumline, where everything is like super, super intense and very well, not intense, but very
Structured
rigid.
and strict.
Yeah, like way too structured, and it's
Right.
almost like you get humiliated or something like that if you're not.
Hmm.
There's like punishments are enforced. I would say realistically, it's like the happy middle ground between that. Where like yeah, there's a structure to it, and like yeah, work has to get done, but there's
Right.
also plenty of time for fun depending on like what group you're in, and I guess like section leaders, and whether or not you have a good instructor or band director. So for us, I think we made it work every year. We all had a good time. Like I'm sure there was times where we all felt stressed, sure, because of the structure and
Right.
how hot it was, and the nature of the marching band itself. It is, people say like, oh, whatever, it's not a sport. It is a sport, whatever. listen,
Oh,
it's
totally.
exercise regardless. It's
Mm-hmm.
you're busting your butt out there for a lot of
Right.
hours. So
I
people don't
mean,
understand
yeah.
how much work it
Sorry.
is, but they don't understand how much fun it can be and how like rewarding the memories are. I think.
Right. I think that's the best part. Or I think you hit it, pretty pretty well there with that kind of happy medium. Because I mean, yeah, people don't really realize is like you're learning a whole show, music from the ground up. A lot of kids maybe have never played an instrument before or haven't been in a marching band before, and you have to get kind of used to being outside every day and playing music. Where a lot of kids come from just having played concert band and sat inside all day. And so, yeah, that can be a wake up call for a lot of people. So it can be challenging for that, for those reasons, for learning hard parts.
Actually, you need
But
like a be drum on you. Us.
yeah, that's God, that's the biggest thing. I mean, for people who haven't marched before, yeah, to then have good technique, know your music, and also march and place all at the same time, and then also be able to, have stamina throughout the entire, practice or show, whatever. Yeah, it's hard. So it definitely is a transition for a lot of musicians. That's just for newcomers, but in general, yeah, Bandcamp itself, it can be intense, but it's fun. Like we talked about, everyone, funny things happen, even if they can sometimes be due to tiredness, exhaustion.
Like
But
passing out.
everyone's yeah passing out. Everyone's just kind of working hard, which is what's fun. Everyone's just kind of giving it their all, and it's fun because you're with people all day. I mean, literally 9 to 5. I mean, it's like kind of having a job almost a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I know I kind of talked about the intense part, but yeah, it's fun because you're there with people and you're all going through the same thing at the same time. Whether it's learning to being a marching band for the first part, whether it's your senior year and you're kind of reminiscing on the last few years. Yeah, it's a very kind of fun, cohesive experience with the people in your band.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Bailey a lot about the this point especially. I feel like band camp, it could feel different depending on the circumstances. Like I felt like freshman year, like I didn't know exactly what to expect. The people around me, I felt like the atmosphere may have been slightly more strict, or maybe it was just
Sure.
because I was a freshman. But then like as we progressed like through the years, I definitely felt more comfortable in that environment. I feel like maybe the bonds I made were stronger, and it felt a lot more fun. Like I would say the teachers or the instructors were always the same. The routine was always the same, but like the people you're around definitely changes the experience a lot.
Hmm.
Now, moving on from band camp, just in general, now band camps, for people that don't know, that's like the summer before school starts. You have to learn this huge show. It's normally between like 7 to 9 minutes, and you kind of have to learn everything because football season's right away. So that's in the summer
Yep.
before high school even starts. Now let's fast forward. We're in high school. Um, this is more of a deep question. This may be more looking back. Were you guys proud to be in marching band? And also a follow up question: do you think marching band is a cult? Because I know personally, a lot of times in high school when people would be like, "I'm in like, am I in marching band?" I would see myself saying, "Well, I'm in the drum line." I always try to make that little distinction. Be like, it's a little different,
Yes,
but
it's a real
over
distinction that exists.
but overall, we were in marching band. So how do you feel about marching band? Were you proud to be in it? And even if you were proud or not, do you think it's like a little bit of a cult?
Again, pretty loaded. But yeah, Andrew, go ahead. I just spoke, so you go for it.
I was gonna say, well, in terms of the first part of the question, like, was I proud or not to be in? Was it you said proud or not to be in marching band or in
Yeah,
drumline?
in marching band.
Okay, well, honestly, I think looking back on it now, that's where I get my source of pride. Is I'm like, this they gave me a lot of really good life perspectives and a lot of good life lessons. Definitely made
Yes.
some great bonds with a lot of different people. But at the time, I feel like I was just you just kind of like live in the moment. You're not too worried about like, oh, how am I feeling about this? I feel like we all naturally felt proud of it because we put in so much work that we can't just, none of us really wanted to throw it all away. We
Mm-hmm.
all knew we were putting in the
Hmm.
work. We all cared about how our section sounded, yada yada yada. Seinfeld. But you know, uh, we all felt that source of pride, but I don't think it was uh, we were consciously aware of it until the fact was over or the season was over. Actually, that now that I think about it, I think that happened. There was like a cycle for every season. You go through the season, you're intense, you're trying to get stuff done, but after you get that last score back or after you play that final game performance, whatever it may be, that's when you could really say like, how did I do now that this is over? and that's where you can kind of reflect, and that's where stuff really began to get processed to where you could actually say like, oh, I want to make changes for next season. So I feel like that's when the pride, if anything, kicked in, where you could, if you want to look back on it and say, I feel proud. That's something they really reinforced. I know they would say, oh, when you're done with the season, you want to be proud of yourself. They kind of really push that as far as like, our teachers went, or crowning whoever it may be. But I mean, I would say throughout the whole process, I was definitely, I was always proud of the group. I think we always sounded good. We always had a really good bond with each other. We always had fun, and we always came out successful on many aspects. So I was always proud of that. And then to answer the second question, was it a cult? I don't think Drumline ever had that culty vibe, ever. But let's be honest, some sections were creepy. Like, people were just creepy about it. Like,
Yeah.
there was no normal aspect of, like, I don't know. Some sections it was like Lord of the Flies. Like, people were just weird. People were just weird. I don't know what. I never understood the whole like, let's take this way too seriously. Like, take a couple steps back. First of all, we're in high school. Like, nobody really knows real life. And second of all, like, we're not getting paid for this. Like, the audience is like mom and dad and a couple other people. Like, it's pretty low stress. If anything, it's for us. So when people took it so seriously that they had to like create like intense drama and like ruin friendships and all this crap, I was all this stuff. Not the C word. Never on the podcast 638. Um, I mean, certain sections got the cult vibe, but I guess that again comes down to, ironically, your section leaders, or whoever your instructor is. I don't even know whatever the trend is at the time with, I guess, that class of high school students. But for us, we pretty much just had a good time. But there was also always a structure to it. Obviously, there was always like a hierarchy. Like, we always followed an order. We always kind of respected whoever we had to respect.
Right,
But
of
never a
course.
cult from Drumline. So yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about this, Ben?
I was gonna say, Andrew, I'm curious. What do you think the difference between what would make a section a cult or not? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm a bit curious as well.
I don't know.
I get
Maybe a
exactly what
5.
It
you're
was kind
saying.
of it was kind of a vague question, to be fair. I guess my
No, but
interpretation.
I get what Steven meant.
Yeah. My my
Because
my
no, no, no.
interpretation is if they took things to the extreme where like they developed
Yeah.
their own like social norms, and then particularly like self-isolated themselves from the rest of high school,
Yeah.
and were in their own like little they were on their own little bubble, like that
Mm-hmm.
weren't interacting with the rest of the world, or like developed
Oh,
their
so
own.
us.
Well, I feel like this is fair.
No, go on, go on.
I
Yeah.
feel like we obviously, because we were close friends, we all had like our own kind of inside jokes and stuff, but we never like
Yes.
self isolated ourselves from the rest of high school. Like, I had my Drumline friends, but then I also had my other friends.
Yes, just outside of. I agree.
But if
Yeah.
anything, we invited those groups to mesh. Think of how many times we had people that weren't even in Drumline just come in and jam with us.
Exactly. Yeah.
We always promoted that. I think if anything, we were the performers. We interacted with an audience, not just with our own other drummers.
Mm-hmm.
Percussionists. But yeah, I mean, what would Ben? What did you say? You were like, what makes someone a cult?
Yeah, I'm just curious. And
Well,
I
I
was
would
gonna say
agree.
something about
I would
pride, but
agree with what Steven. I think Steven pretty much,
Right.
explained that what it would take for it to be a cult. But I guess you'd have to start seeing like. I guess if anything for us, how we were in high school, how we would start to feel that type of like culty vibe is, when you start to talk to someone and they look at you like you have like 7 heads, and not because of what you're
Exactly.
saying, but just because of who you are. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That kind of thing. Like, don't talk to me. You're in Drumline.
Sure. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that kind of thing where it's like,
It's a very
I think I got
defined.
that. I
like,
remember one
oddness.
time, just this was freshman year too for me, but I remember one time I walked into the, I don't know what you call that, the horns closet, the one that was to the right of Mr. White's door.
Yeah.
I walked in there and there were like, I think there were a couple trombones just sitting on the floor, like practicing or something. And they were in a circle. Nothing weird about that. Like, not like we didn't practice and do other things in circles.
sir.
But I walked in and I just remember they all stopped and like slowly turned to me. And they all looked at me with like their eyes open wide. and this like one chick was just like, "Get out now, now,"
Not get
and I
in.
just like,
Oh.
not get in. Nope, that's for us. David Weisberg, shout out. But yeah, that whole thing, I was like, really? This some chick yelled at me to get out? Like, what were they doing? They were literally there was no sound too coming out. I just thought the whole thing was very odd. Like the way they just slowly turned. It was like, you ever see the movie Sinister?
No, I have not.
Probably not. I don't think anyone here. Okay, whatever. There's like a scene in Sinister where like all the little ghost children like turn around slowly and like attack this dude. I think it's like Kevin Bacon, which is phenomenal. He's a wonderful man. But anyway, yeah, that kind of whole vibe of like, we're doing our own thing. How dare you open a door? Like, relax. So I'm sure we all got that vibe from people, but I don't know how. I'm sure it gets a lot. I'm sure it gets a lot worse at other schools.
Yeah.
The whole cult thing.
Sure, yeah.
So I want to throw this back over to Ben about the initial question. I think we pretty much established like a consensus cult answer, but were you proud to be in marching band, Ben?
I think so. Like, I don't think we ever really ignored the fact that we were in Drumline or tried to, or like in band or like hide it from anyone else. And like, it wasn't like we were all friends with each other, and we all like friends with other people outside of, uh, and then we were like even close enough with each other to like meet those people. I feel like it didn't affect anything. I feel that it just allowed you to meet more people. And like, I understand the stigma of possibly being like embarrassed or something like that, if that's what you're sort of asking.
Right.
I personally like that.
Yeah. I'm definitely in the same wavelength as you, Ben. How do you feel about this, Bailey?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of pride, which you guys have both spoken to, or all you guys have spoken to, yeah, I'm extremely proud to have been in it. I mean, it's a great way to kind of see yourself, grow up throughout 4 years of high school, and you kind of like you set goals for yourself, every year. So it is like this kind of very consistent thing you can kind of always look to see how you're improving just in general. So I think kind of having that structure to kind of guide you, through being a better leader, a better musician, better problem solver. That helped a lot with that. So I'm definitely proud to have done that. So, kind of going off of that in terms of the cult status, yeah, I mean, like Ben said, in terms of maybe like it's kind of like a stigma for you to be embarrassed about it, I would say not at all, because I think everyone's proud to be a part of it because it's a great group who works hard, which Andrew talked about before.
Right.
And so I think for that reason, I can see what people are saying, but to me, I wouldn't say it was a cult. I think it's a very tight knit group. So I think that maybe is what people kind of look to. That it's very specific because not a lot of people are with each other every day, working on music every day throughout an entire year. So I think for that reason, I would say it's not a cult. It definitely is a very tight knit group, but not culty. Everyone can still go out and be their own person. But when you're in that group together, it's something special, but nothing weird or cringy, I would say.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So moving on to the next topic. This one's a fun one, so you guys got to brace yourselves. All right. So
It's been fun already.
So craziest / funniest story or memory each of you have from Drumline. Now listen.
Oh,
That's
listen.
a whole separate podcast.
Okay, listen.
Can I add an
So
jeez.
I want to add a
After-
caveat first.
Appropriate.
Yes. So the caveat is.
Do we add
so,
Rodrigo now?
We should have added Rodrigo before this, but the caveat
he
is
would be
something
killing
that
it right now.
something that's again that you're willing to share on YouTube. Like, so it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be the 100% crazy thing, or it could be the abbreviated version. But I want to go around the circle, or just the funny memory that popped in your head, or something, just to show like some shenanigans that could go on. I don't know who wants to take this first.
I already have mine. If you guys don't want to go,
All right, Bailey,
like-
go for it.
I gotta think. Yeah.
Can I make someone say a story? Because I wasn't there, but I really want it to be said.
they're.
Go for
I'm
it.
not gonna say that. I'm gonna tell right now.
But have Bailey go first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like Andrew just said, I mean, there are millions of stories to even think about. It's hard, but the number one that like defines my entire experience in
There's
a
the door.
neutral. It's not even bad, not even good. It's just I think it sums up everything really well. So we're in this summer camp that was hosted by like this clinician.
That's sad.
Sounds of
Matt
summer.
Savage.
Oh.
Sounds
Matt Savage.
got shirts and everything. This guy Matt Savage is a very acclaimed percussionist. He's really good, cool guy.
Yeah, I'd like to see
Um,
these claims.
which our instructor, he signed us up for, or encouraged us to sign up for, and it was pretty cool. It was like pretty much all of us were there. And the
Except
funny
for
thing
me.
was, except for Andrew, the funny thing is, so you spend the whole day, you're working in clinics. You guys are kind of learning basics of marching, just technique, certain warm-ups, etc. So it's pretty cool, and you're split up into groups. You're based on skill level. So there's like the beginner group, there's like the intermediate group, the advanced group, which is fine. And I think we were juniors, so we were still kind of learning the ropes a little bit, still not super advanced. So I'm with one of our other friends, Matt, and we're in this one group. And what turns out is the instructor for our group is our regular instructor in our band class. Which is fine, but you'd think you're at a camp, you'd get a different instructor. No, nothing bad about him, but you would think he would get like a new instructor because you're at a camp, and it's to have like a new perspective from a new instructor. But that's besides the point. But anyway, you'd think it'd be kind of easy going with having our instructor to be fun, whatever. So we're going through pieces, we're having a good time, it's fun. The stuff is pretty interesting, it's challenging, and whatnot. And again, it's summer camp, so we're having fun. So we're kind of goofing off. I would say things to my friend, next to me, Matt, and we're just joking around because again, it's camp. And my instructor was like, "Stop laughing, Bailey." And I'm like, okay, I'm maybe kind of misquoting him a little bit, but something along those lines. And we're still playing around. Maybe we're joking around a little bit again. He's like, "I'm not going to tell you one more time. Cut it out." And I'm like, "All right." Again, we kind of brush it off. It's just camp, so it's just supposed to be fun. Then I guess we said one more thing, joked around a little bit, maybe minor in a very minor manner, and then he stops the entire camp. Again, this is a whole series of us going through music. He stops the entire camp. This is in front of kids we don't know. He knows me, which is what makes it amazing. He says, and I quote, "You think you're cute? You think you're funny? Think you're better than me? There's the door." And I'm some kid, like my junior year. I'm like, whatever, 16, 17. This is my instructor who was supposed to make me feel comfortable in this session. He says this to me. I froze. I was like, I almost started laughing because I couldn't believe this was real. But then I was just embarrassed because like all these kids were like, I think they knew that he was our instructor. And we just continued on after that. And then whenever I bring this up to him after the camp, he's like, "Boy, you deserve that. You're being a nuisance." And yeah,
Yeah.
I can never forget. I remember it word for word. So that's my defining drumline moment for sure.
Just to add some context to that, our instructor for the most part was the boy. Like we definitely had it good. Having him, he was, he was
Yes.
probably like 10, 15 years older than us. Like, we had him in middle
Yes.
school. Like, he was definitely a very, very chill dude for the most part. So, for the few times that he, like, actually yells at you, it comes off as, like, a huge surprise. You're kind of just like,
Yes.
what is going on right now?
That's what I should have added, because I think Steve makes the best point. I didn't want to, belabor the whole thing with too much context, but he's never yelled at me ever except in that one moment. And it wasn't even in school. It was at some random camp.
Yeah.
That's what makes it amazing.
He broke him.
He broke me.
Really. Really did.
I learned it the hard way that day. Live fast, die last.
Live fast, die last. The reckless youth. I want me some pancakes because my throat. You hear this, ladies and gentlemen? My throat is raw.
Ivan Wansley. Anyways, Ben, you said you had a story you wanted to tell?
Ivan Wansley, all right.
It's not Ivan. Evolve.
That was another instructor we had. That's a whole nother can of worms.
What's that, man? Helped him. Taught me how to play the tambourine once. Oh, that's a good story.
Tambourine Man.
Yeah,
Tambourine Man.
we had this. It was the entire band. Before a concert, he came to instruct us because whatever, more experience from our band director than our band director, and just another point of view. And we never really cared much about the concert music. We focused most of our time on marching throughout the year, solos and percussion ensembles for their like quarter of the year, and then we did band concert like rarely. I feel like we never got our music more than like 2 or 3 weeks before a concert. or performance. And so like I didn't really know the entire piece well, and I was on tambourine, and this instructor said, "Tambourine man, that's not how you play a tambourine." And he walked over. It took him like 45 seconds to get over to where we were standing. And then he starts showing me the technique to play the tambourine in front of like 80 people. And everyone's just frozen. Like, this man is getting paid hundreds of dollars to come a tambourine in front of someone he called the tambourine man.
Yeah. But now
I think
you play the
Ben makes a
tambourine.
good point there.
Yeah, you play better than all of us now, Ben. Think about it that way.
It's crazy because my ability to thumb roll is now on a level.
It's fantastic. I was gonna add a quick thing, like what Ben said, like, yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest fears, especially you get when you're like in middle school as a percussionist, is like being singled out in front of everybody because you're the only person playing that part usually.
Yeah.
And there's this
And it's so horrible. to,
Especially
like,
if
be
it's
singled
Bells or
out like that.
xylophone,
Oh, that's the worst.
and you don't know
I
what
mean,
you're
it's not-
doing.
Right, especially don't know what you're doing, but also like
yeah, we never really got our music early.
Yeah, you didn't get it in time.
we did for NPA, but when we would do it for like the winter show, it was hard because the whole season was marching. But for NPA, it usually was a whole semester focused on concert band. But I agree with what you said.
Yeah.
Tambourine man.
No, I'll give a quick story and then I'll throw it over to Andrew because my story is really quick. So I think this one pretty much sums up at least our drum line. Like, I really can't speak for other drum lines, but at least our drum line and how we fit into the marching band scene. So I would consider, like, maybe we had two stereotypes. Like, we were kind of the goofballs, you know, I guess the pranksters or whatever. And we were also, you know, quote Tiffany, we were the hottest section. You know, even though it
You would
doesn't.
say that.
That's objective.
That's objective.
It's objective, yes.
That's objectively true.
It's objectively true. Anyways, so I just remember it was okay. So obviously, as Andrew said, there's a lot of sweat going on during practices and during band camp or whatever.
Let's be honest, 90% of it at the time dripped off my body.
Yeah. So a lot of because there's a lot of sweat. There's a lot of we have this closet.
Testosterone.
We had this closet called the drum closet, where it was behind the band room. It was a really big closet because we had to fit all the marimbas and stuff in it. And we'd end up, you know, if we really didn't want to like hear what was going on in class, we'd kind of sneak back there and do some, and just kind of goof off or whatever. So we also would keep our like deodorants and our Axe body sprays and whatever body sprays they had. So I just remember it was one day after practice, like I'm just trying to put things away in the drum closet, and I go back there and literally I just open the door and someone has the Axe body spray and a lighter, and I just see a flamethrower just go through the entire closet. I open the door, there's literally a flamethrower, just a flame through the whole closet, and then I instantly close the door and just pretend like I just went on my way. And
Oh man, so
I think that pretty much sums up, like, you know,
that does.
what goes on
We're not.
behind closed doors.
We're not
Oh
a
yeah.
cult.
Yeah, we're not a cult.
Not a
Correct,
cult, definitely not. All right. All right, Andrew, what's your story?
Oh my god, it's funny because like I feel like I have all these like mini stories, like nothing like a big thing, but I just remember like Ben and McGuire, and that really touched my soul, and
I couldn't
that was
talk
one
about it.
thing. No,
No.
I remember like just little things. Like I remember one time we went on like, well, this is actually jazz band now that I think about it, but there was one time Rodrigo, like I took his shoes and I put them in a microwave during a jazz band trip, and he said no word about it. All he did was wear flip flops for the rest of the entire time. It was like a 3-day trip.
Wow.
But like I would say like if I had to pick a story that like really made me, actually I'm gonna say two things, because one thing just like made me laugh and it really shows you like how serious people could be. I remember, I think it was freshman year. I don't think it was sophomore year. Oh, there might have been sophomore year. But I remember there was like, you know, you march back to the band room after the football game. You march back and you play, you know, there's taps, and then you play the whatever cadences you have to play. And there was like one day where like I think we just didn't sound great during a cadence. And I just remember like, Christian like trotting past me at like this heavy pace, and he like ripped off his drum and like threw it on the ground. And he was like, "We're set," or something like crazy. And he like, I don't know, but just like I was so tired, and like everyone's just exhausted, and he had like more energy and power than Christ. And just that in that moment made me laugh. And like I think about that sometimes. But anyway, if I had to pick like a funny moment, I think it was just like I guess like how well our mind kind of meshed. And one thing I thought about was just I remember one time we were in the we went to Disney, we did our whole spiel there with the parade.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was one time where we were in the group and just like walking, and in the far distance you just see Winnie the Pooh and Tigger walking. And I just remember like Ben and I gave each other like a side glance and then just like took off running after them.
Yeah.
Waited in line.
I remember
And
this.
then we waited. But Steve, you were there too. I
Oh
don't know if
yeah,
you
I'm
ran with
in the
us.
picture.
Yeah, but like I just remember like we all did like the stone face, and all the kids were in line like crying for some odd reason because they were looking at us like I don't know what it was that we like disturbed them mentally, but I think it was just like a lot of the things that we did in Drumline that are funny. It's just like our natural mindsets of like how things are. You know what I mean? Like we didn't really take things too seriously, but we still really cared, and I think that's where we got a lot
Yes.
of like
I have
That's
a
the best
story
part.
fun memories.
right into our band laugh.
What were you
Like
saying,
I
Ben?
remember, do you remember when it was like the last competition and I brought everyone into the band closet, like the drum closet, and I started like I think I was like roasting Susser while like tying that rope into a noose, you know that rope that Mr. White had, and I was like tying it into a noose, but
Oh,
then he
jeez.
opened the door.
Find it tied
He
as a
opened the
noose.
door.
We find it and it was tied as a noose and we took it.
No, he was like, "Hey, that's
Yes,
mine."
but yes. But oh, that's what I was doing. It was already tied. I think I was pretending to hang myself off something while roasting Susser. Everyone was in the closet. But then when Mr. White opened the door, I like pretend to sit down and like I pretended I was like mid speech, giving everyone like oh I'm so proud of you kind of speech. And I remember Mr. White was crying at the end of it,
Wow.
and
Jeez, yeah.
that was good.
That's a
That
lot
made me
going on
laugh
there.
because I had to like cover my tracks. But I don't know.
I
Just like it was just wackiness, you know. None of it was ever planned. It was just like we all acted in the moment, and it was something just whacked, bonkers, completely bonkers. But yeah, I mean, there are like endless things we could recall. I'm sure if we had more time to just like sit and like BS different topics, we'd get to like hours worth of. Do you remember this and do you remember that?
Yeah,
You
oh
know?
yeah, for sure. There's just too many different things that happen. It seemed like every single day something like random or crazy happened. But that's what kept it interesting and made it fun.
Like the vocals alone would take like a day to
Yeah.
discuss.
Oh, yeah.
So now I
Those
want
especially.
yeah. Now I want to transition a little bit. I know we kind of covered this a little bit in band camp, but I want to talk about the practice, not the game. Let's talk a little bit about practice. What sort of time commitment that was like? What like if how basically the time commitment, what it was like. Even we can talk about the games and competitions. Like what sort of time commitment was marching band during the physical school year? We can start with Bailey if we want to.
Sure. Yeah, I'll definitely take that one. I mean, it's a big commitment. I mean, it's you have class every day, so you're practicing every day. Then you'll have a sectional once a week. I mean, at least for us, so we used to have you'd have one period every day of class, last day or last period of the day. Then we'd have a Monday sectional for like an hour, hour and a half, and then you'd have a full band practice. What was it, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever, Monday, Wednesday, whatever we used to do.
Yeah, I think it switched off one year, but
But
yeah,
add jazz band to that too.
yeah.
Yeah, and then if you're in jazz band, you have another practice on top of
Or in the
that, and a
musical,
class
you
as
know, I
well.
played for the musical as well.
So the main thing, not to diminish that, but in terms of just drumline strictly, yeah, I mean, so you have those two full practices, every week, and then sometimes you might just have, a random one-on-one with like the drum major or like a certain section that the band director might call just to kind of work on something. So in terms of just actual being there, I mean, it's a lot. I mean, you're doing it every day, and then you still have it outside of school. So then like your main commitment outside of school during the week usually is band. Unless you have other clubs and sports like that, it's hard to really balance it. That's kind of a little off topic, but yeah, the amount of practice. It's pretty constant. It really is every day. You're really practicing every day, to improve and to kind of have a general cohesion. And the intensity in terms of that varies based on how far you're in the season, how everyone knows their music, if people are actually following along and really being committed to their music. So it can really vary. It can be hard because you have to work out certain things if people aren't keeping their word or being consistent with their practicing. But in general, not to repeat myself, but it's a lot of practicing. It's every day.
Right. I'm gonna toss it over to Ben. How'd you feel about particularly like what went on in practice? Like, and I think Bailey really summed it up. But do you have anything to add, or and maybe a story from practice or game time or
Definitely
something?
Oh, oh, please.
But before the story, um, I also want to add on to the fact that I feel like we've had like so many practices though that have been completely useless just because of how tired we were and how much we just like had other things going on in our lives at the moment.
Yep, that's true too.
And also at that practice, we were with our band director for, let's see, 5 hours of class a week. He
Yep.
might have been there during our sectional, 6 hours of band practice a week, and then possibly like 5 plus more hours if we had a game. And I wanted to give a little backstory. I want to give my story about band director. So it's after practice. I don't know if it was junior or senior year. So Andrew, let me know if you were here for this. It's the Diwali story.
No.
With Jacob Levine or
No, so
oh
the end of practice, I was it was like after the marching band season. It was during the holidays, and we always marched in the parade in our town. So we were practicing for that, and in part of our marching band uniforms, he gave us permission to wear Christmas or Hanukkah hats. So I said Diwali, which is the Hindu um, holiday of light. I think
Oh wait, never mind. I was there for this.
I could celebrate Diwali and wear a Diwali hat. He
Yeah, I saw
turns
you
over
do
to
this.
the person who looked Indian in the entire band and said, "Hey, you look like you celebrate Diwali." And it was the most mortified I had ever been. And
Oh
that just
God.
gives context into the man that we were around that many hours a week.
Oh my god, this is horrifying.
yeah.
Oh,
What about you, Andrew? How did you feel about the practices?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Ben and how he pretty much highlighted the whole how many practices were like utterly useless. But again, I think a lot of it comes down to like just one person. Think of how many times one person ruined an entire practice for us when a lot of people
Hmm.
were trying to get stuff
Yeah.
done. Think about how many times it was like one kid fooling around or one kid who didn't know his music and one kid who didn't show up or one person who was even late. It just shows, I think, if anything, our practices really stressed how important it was as a team. That drumline was like a team, because sectionals and whatnot were fun. We were able to get some stuff done, but unless everyone was on board, we were still a bit delayed. But again, I think it's worth to note that like for drumline, our work ethic was always way ahead of the band. I'll say that with pride. I hope people from the band are listening to this. Way ahead of the band. But
Yeah.
we always had less time to know our stuff, and we always got it done.
And,
yeah, for sure.
yeah. And on
We were
top of
also
that,
like, yeah,
just real
yeah.
quick, on top of that, they got a lot of times they didn't know their music. They could put it on their instruments. Like we never had
Yeah,
that
that was a
privilege.
big deal.
We
Never
had to
had that. Never
memorize
had that luxury
everything.
to do that.
Yeah.
No,
Yep,
yeah, exactly,
from very early on too.
for sure.
Imagine how hard it must be to march and like have to practice like a wind instrument at the same time as though you need to
Yeah,
coordinate your breaths and be sweating. So like, can't like,
Yeah.
wow.
yeah. I mean, I can't speak to that. So I mean, yeah, that's
Yeah.
something that they'll definitely always have over us.
Yeah. No shade, but I'd rather carry a flute than a bass drum. That's all. That's all I'll say.
Gotta care.
But yeah, I guess that'll bring us. We can wrap it up with this topic, which this will be the last question. Um, if you guys could go back, would you do drumline slash marching band again, or if you do decide to do it again, would you change anything that happened, or would you do something differently during those 4 years? Let's start with Ben this time, or whoever's ready first.
Okay. So
Okay.
what I'm hearing is if you had the chance to change
Change
your
your
fate,
fate.
change it.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
too
will
bad.
never change my fate. I have stated this many times. Anything. Everything that happened, even some of the bad things, all turned out for the best. And I think we all turned out great overall. And I probably wouldn't do anything too different.
Yeah, definitely. Does anyone else who wants to go next?
Uh, I'll go if you don't want to go, Andrew.
I'm still thinking,
Okay.
Okay. Um,
still processing this. This is a hefty question.
no, it's loaded, but I think I guess I'll go. Ben alluded to something that I think I like what he said, which is
Cool.
that yeah, I mean, obviously you can't change your fate, and it's kind of hard to say. Everyone wants to change something, obviously, but the past makes you who you are, so it's kind of hard to want to change every single part of it. But and if I had to go back and change anything, I'd probably say no, except just practice more, which is the right band thing to say. Um,
For sure.
yeah, I mean, the fact that we're here talking about it years back, we're all still friends. I mean, speaks to just how influential and how worthwhile it is to have been in it, and the positive effects it had. I think in general. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't change anything. I will admit one thing that I did want to maybe mention was that it is a time commitment, and I think there were some times when I wanted to do other things. I still did a lot of other things, but band definitely was the biggest time commitment. So I think if anything, maybe have tried other things or done more things maybe outside of band. But to be honest, probably not because I think I had the most fun in band. Because again, we're all here talking about this because you're involved in it a lot. You have all these great experiences because you're with people every day, working hard every day. And so I think for that reason, even if maybe I did want to do more things outside of bands, I think the way it went was honestly fantastic, and I wouldn't change it.
Right.
Yeah.
Here, I'll go real quick, and then I'll let Andrew be the last word on this. Um, for me, so obviously I thought about this question a little bit longer than you guys because I wrote the question, but um, I would definitely, if at first I would definitely do marching band again. Like if I would go back, I would definitely still do it. Would I change anything? I think the biggest thing I would change that I really regret doing is, especially in the later years, I'm definitely, or at least definitely in high school, I definitely felt like a micromanager. I definitely wanted everything to be perfect, and I was trying my best to make everything perfect. But I think later in life, I realized more that there are only so many things you can control, and like again, as Andrew said earlier, like this is just it's just high school drumline. Like at the end of the day, like our parents are the ones that are really in the audience, with some other people, and the other people that are in the audience have no idea what sounds good or what like doesn't necessarily sound as great, like in a very vast like judgmental musical sense. So like they were gonna clap no matter what as long as we sounded decent. Like I wish
Sure.
I, you know, could was in a mindset to enjoy it more at the time that I was in it, and was in a mindset to just definitely still practice hard as Bailey said, and give my 100%, but definitely go in more of how I went in like the later half of my senior year, like go in enjoying being around my friends and having fun, and we make some music along the way, I guess you could say.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
I felt kind of the same
Definitely.
way at the end too. Yeah.
So okay. I guess I'll. Should I go now?
Yeah, go for it.
Carry this. Okay. So yeah, I agree with all of you that if you had to change your fate, whatever, would ya? But I agree that our 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 actions and our memories are what put us in. Well, not the sole reason, but I think we ended up pretty great, and I think we look back on Drumline as a great, hugely positive, and something we'll cherish in our past. I don't think any of us reflect on it with bitterness or with like an overwhelming feeling of regret. So I think
Right.
that when you sum everything together, yeah, all the mistakes and whatever we may feel embarrassed about, we had to experience that, but it made us stronger people. Keep in mind, we're still figuring out who we are as young adults. It helped us solidify the bonds with other people that we made in band. It helped us solidify us as musicians and as drummers and students and people in general. So, yeah, overall, there's really nothing one like realistically that should be changed. But for me, and this is probably going to be like an obvious thing, but if I had the chance to go back, I don't think I would do it because I'd realize that this is something I had to experience to put me where I am today. But
Mm.
something I would be pretty hesitant about is how many times throughout high school I would say today's the day I'm gonna go on a diet, or like today's the day I'm gonna exercise. Like I understand drumline was exercise, but I feel like I would have been so much better of a drummer and a leader as a drum captain. And just overall, I think that if I would have made that action earlier in life, that would have totally warped my entire mindset and my entire experience in a way, because there are so many times where I had to fall back and recollect things because I was just way too tired and sluggish, and I couldn't do it physically. And I always pushed myself, but I always knew like it's going to get to a point where like I need to make the change. And I always pushed that off and delayed it. And of course, like the earlier the better. But that for me was really tough because I always enjoyed having a good time and being joking, but a lot of the times when I felt I was falling short physically, I would just resort to making like a fat joke. You know what I mean? And I'm sure
Right.
you guys have all like noticed this or picked up on it, but like, it's one of those things like psychologically and mentally you have to address, and it's good to address it at any time, if anything. But I would probably be hesitant on if I had that chance to make that change then it'd probably change a lot of things. But again, you guys are all right in that nothing should be changed because we're all pretty um, content with our current state of lives and our memories with
Hmm.
drumline. So when push comes to shove, it makes us who we are. So yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank you again all for coming on my podcast. This was a lot of fun, and I think I think it was definitely very healthy to like talk about our drumline memories and stuff. I know we could talk for hours and hours,
Oh yeah.
off camera or whatever. So once again, thank you guys, and that concludes our episode of 638 podcast. If you guys enjoyed just listening to us talk about things, or if you want to join marching band or not, if you found this helpful, just hit the subscribe button. This is my sellout moment. And yeah, and I don't know. That's it. I'm gonna stop recording now. And I'll
Part
see
two
you
Have a,
coming soon.
see you next
have a good
episode.